This week on Dateline Abuja, we catch up with the FCT-IRS in the nation's capital. What was the revenue target for 2024? Did they meet that target and how? What was the money used for? What is the target for 2025 and what is this January deadline about? How will the proposed tax reforms work in the FCT and those revenue collectors are still on the street? This is Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Welcome back. Mr. Michael Ango, the chairman of the FCT-IRS, joins us today on the program as we understand revenue collection in the FCT in 2024 and the plans to shore up revenue in Abuja in 2025. What accountability measures are in place to ensure these monies are used judiciously? And how do the tax reforms affect the collection of revenue in the FCT? Please watch this. Mr. Michael Ango, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you, Kayla. Nice to be here again.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Let's talk about 2024.
Yes.
What was the target? How did you meet it?
Well, so we had a target of 250 billion for 2024.
250 billion?
Yes.
Okay.
And we collected total 262 billion. So we did surpass the target.
By 2 billion?
No, 12 billion.
Oh, by 12 billion?
262 billion.
Okay.
Yes. Commendable as it were, personally, I still feel like it is, below the potentials that exist in the FCT-IRS. So while I impressed on my staff that, I commended them for that, I thought that we could do better. And so we've left 2024 behind and we're now in 2025 and we want to press further and see how we can collect all the revenues in the FCT. How did we get
262 billion?
Oh, well...
where did the bulk of that revenue come from?
Yeah, the bulk of the revenue comes from personal income taxes in form of... So we have the PAYE, which is from employees, deducted by the employers, and then we have the direct assessment. So the bulk of our collection is actually PAYE. And that's one issue that we will be tackling in 2025. We want to see how we can also ensure that other revenue items or heads contribute significant amounts. So while we would like to increase the collection of the PAYE, we would like to other items to also increase their percentages so that we can totally have, a very diversified revenue spread in the FCT.
So if we're going to rank it, so you said personal income tax was at the top of it.
Yes.
What other areas of revenue made a significant, showing in
we have the
withholding tax. Withholding tax.
Yes, from individuals. Then we had CGT, capital gains tax, and then we have stamp duties. We also have the entertainment tax, which we started to collect, from hotels, restaurants, and event centers. And then, of course, we have the other charges, which aren't directly under the FCT-IRS, but which, like I mentioned to you the last time I was here, the FCT-IRS will be collecting. So this year, we're going to have the harmonization, which I mentioned to you last year. Once that comes in, on stream fully, then you will see that the revenue spread will be much broader. And revenue will go up, but the contribution of the revenue heads will be more dispersed, and that's really where we want to get to. So,
what was the money used for?
Oh, Kayla, I'm surprised you're asking this.
Well, maybe you can give me a breakdown.
You're an Abuja resident. I'm sure you've seen all the projects that the Honorable Minister is undertaking. These projects were used to build roads, they were used to build bridges, they were used to, do water treatment, they were used for the Abuja mass transit, they were used, of course, to pay salaries too. As you're aware, the Honorable Minister has implemented the 70,000 Naira minimum wage for FCT. So all FCT civil servants are now collecting the minimum wage. And of course, there will be a consequential increase across board. He's gone to the satellite towns, he's commissioning projects every day. So the money was used for the FCT. And in fact,
just so people can understand, when we look at infrastructure growth in the FCT and we see people commend, the minister is working, that money actually comes from your office.
Well, most of it does.
Most of it does.
Most of it is internal generated revenue. Of course, as FCT, we're also funded by allocation from the federal government. But one of the things that the Honorable Minister really wants to do is to ensure that he's able to get revenues from within the FCT to cater for all the infrastructural needs of the FCT. So yes, most of it came from us, but of course there were also allocations from the federal government.
So just to be clear, the 262 billion that was made last year, was part of it from allocations that are given to the FCT?
No, absolutely no. That
so
was
the allocation,
totally
how much? So that was just strictly internally generated revenue. The allocations that are given to the FCT, can you give us some kind of figure as to what?
No, I don't have access to that.
Okay.
I don't have access to that. That's a treasury issue because we have the FCT treasury, which is distinct from the FCT-IRS.
Okay.
So we don't handle the federal allocations, but it's really just it's 1% of the federal allocation from FAC. So it's not a very significant amount, I can tell you.
But it's money nonetheless.
Yes, of course it is money, but it's not what the minister would have used to do all the work that he's doing.
So the bulk of
it was the IGR from the FCT. Of course, including departments like AGs, like Lands, Development Control, the APB, Abuja Environmental, the Directorate of Road Transport Services, Road Traffic Services rather, and all the other, revenue generating agencies, SDA, secretariats, departments and agencies within the FCT. So it's a collective effort. It's not just the FCT-IRS, although of course by virtue of our mandates and our enabling law, we collect the bulk of the revenues in the FCT.
Does this revenue also come from these people who stay on the road?
I knew you were going to ask that question. I promised you last time I was here that you will not see those boys anymore. We're working very closely with the area councils to get those boys out of the streets. But again, we also understand that some of these boys, are employed by the area councils. So what we have agreed with the area councils is that we will be able to absorb those boys when we do the harmonization to make them, train them. Some of them are graduates. I've had interactions with some of them and they say, look, we're graduates, we don't have jobs. So the plan is to actually integrate them and make them work properly as revenue officers, but not on the streets. One of the plans for 2025 is to actually open up what we call kiosk offices, which will be a collaboration between the FCT-IRS, the area councils and other secretariats and departments. These kiosk offices will be well equipped. They will have computers, they will have internet, they will be powered by solar. So some of these boys will go and work in those kiosk offices where they can generate assessments from the computers, receive payments, of course not physical cash, but if you make a payment, they can assist you to generate your receipts and generally educate our taxpayers. So it's a process, we will do it, and I'm sure that the area councils also understand that ultimately for a city like Abuja, we cannot have people standing on the road, blocking vehicles in traffic and, creating nuisance. So that issue will certainly be sorted out. It's taking a bit of a time, but I can assure you that it will be sorted out shortly. So some of the items that they do collect are actually constitutional and legal, but it's the process of collection.
It does seem a little cake, doesn't it?
It's not just a cake, it's even illegal. The Taxes and Levies Approved List for Collection Act prohibits, setting up roadblocks to collect any revenue on the streets. And it's not in line with global trends. Even in places like Lagos, Kaduna, these things don't happen anymore. How much more the FCT? So, like I said, it's top of our agenda, and we expect that we're going to get the cooperation. We'll do. Of course, don't forget, we also have powers to take them out, using other means. But we don't want to, go that route. We believe that it's better that they understand that what they are doing, and of course, the area councils have the responsibility to ensure that those guys do not come out and do what. But one of the things that I was doing before leaving the office was to tidy up some of the documentation, the agreements we're going to sign. Also, we have the issue of the technology to be deployed. So we have a portal that needs to be made very robust to accommodate all of this. So what will happen ultimately is that if you do have a fee or a levy or tax to pay to the local governments, you would go to the FCT-IRS portal, you will generate an invoice or a bill for that purpose. You can pay online using any of the payment channels, or you can go to bank and pay. Once you pay, you will generate your receipts electronically. It will be generated, it will be sent to your email, or you can print it out from the portal, and then that's it. So you have your receipts, so nobody needs to stop you on the road. And then we're going to have joint, audits and
it's a lot of things, but we'll get to that shortly, because there's an HNI unit that you have going on.
Yes.
And then of course there's a target for 2025, how you're going to meet it. If you just joined us, you are watching Dateline Abuja, and we have with us the chairman of the FIRS, the FCT, IRS.
Yeah.
Mr. Michael Ango, thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Kayla.
All right, so let's talk 2025. What's the target?
Yes. So we haven't, we don't set our targets. The targets are usually set for us by the FCT administration, headed by the Honorable Minister, and of course, the National Assembly. That's the Senate and House committees on the FCT. So we are working with them to get our targets, but I can assure you that what we will collect this year will be far in excess of what we collected. We even want to push ourselves. So apart from the external targets that will be given, we have our own internal targets. And what I can assure is that whatever targets were given by the FCT or the National Assembly, we will have our own internal targets, which will be in excess of that, because we do, of course, want to exceed our targets. So, yeah, in a few weeks' time, we would have, the targets formally, but we're already working with some in-house estimates, and I can tell you that the targets we're looking at will be in excess of 350 billion, if not 400 billion.
It's very ambitious.
No, well, not too ambitious, because if you look at the potentialities that exist,
almost 100.
Yes, absolutely, and it will be done because the FCT is the administrative capital of Nigeria. It is, where you have the largest conglomeration of ministries, departments, and agencies, government workers. You have the international organizations here. You have the embassies, and like you rightly mentioned, you have a large pool of high net worth individuals in Abuja.
Oh, that brings me to that department.
Yes.
There's an HNI unit.
Yes, there's a HNI unit under my office as chairman. So what we've done is we've just replicated what happens in large cities. Like any other city, if you go to the UK, you go to Singapore, anywhere, you have HNI units which are tailored specifically for high net worth individuals. What we did was to create that unit and to put a threshold of 25 million naira in the first instance as the bar for a HNI. So if you earn anything, up to 25, anything from 25 million naira and above annually, we've designated you a HNI. And the reason is because we want to ensure that the people who earn the most pay their fair share of taxes in Abuja. We don't want to be seen as an agency that goes after just government workers or low-income workers. Want to actually ensure that the high net worth individuals, the elite, pay their fair share of taxes. And I can tell you that the response has been positive. In the last month or so since we started that unit, we have written letters in excess of 1,000 letters out. Like I told you, we identified over 10,000 individuals.
So you write to the individuals?
Yes, we do write to the individuals. We give them an opportunity to come forward and comply. For us, voluntary compliance is the best form of compliance. So we've written out letters. We're constantly communicating with them. Some of them have come to the office. Some have declared, and paid their taxes. But it's still growing. The ultimate aim is to contact every single person on that list and then give them a timeline within which to comply. After that, then we can begin to explore the options. But we hope we don't get there. Our belief is that as a high net worth individual resident in Abuja, you do understand and appreciate the efforts that the Honorable Minister is making, and you should see your own taxes as your contribution to the improvement and development of the FCT.
Everyone keeps talking about the proposed tax reforms.
Yes.
And some of the things that are written in those tax reforms are things that I've heard you say you want to do, which is the consolidation of taxes. Because for many residents of the FCT, one of their biggest problems is multiple taxation.
Absolutely.
Multi-layer. In fact, the way to describe multiple taxation in the FCT, you need to understand it differently. It's multiple layered, multiple scheduled taxation. So for many businesses, they're hemorrhaging under these situations. Talk to us a bit about these tax reform bills. If they are, if they go through, which many people believe they will go through.
They will go through.
How does that impact revenue generation in the FCT and the work that your office will be doing?
So, like I told you last time, I was a member of the Presidential Committee. So I understand the work that the committee did. Fantastic efforts. We had, professionals from all walks of life. We had people from the private sector. We had people from government. We had people from the academia and all. So at the core of what the Presidential Reform Committee is trying to achieve is to enhance the ability of the federal government to collect its revenue. And it's simple. You cannot have agencies of one government then going out individually to collect taxes from the same people. So if, for example, you have 4 taxes or 4 revenue items that you want to pay, it is one federal government or it is one FCT government, FCT administration. So it is always easier if you go to one point and you pay. So what at the core of harmonization is actually the taxpayer. It's actually ease of doing business. It's one of the core tenets of taxation, that you help your taxpayers to pay with ease. So what we're also trying to do, taking a leaf from the presidential committees, and in fact, the chairman of the committee, Mr. Taiwo Idili, actually came to speak to myself and the area council chairman the last time we met in September. He came to talk to us and he tried to explain to us that, look, nobody's going to take anybody's job. So one of the fear that some of the agencies have is that, oh, I'm going to take over your job. No, we're not taking over anything. It is FCTA revenue anyway, so it's not your revenue. So we're collecting on your behalf. We'll aggregate it, but we're going to have technology that enables every agency to be able to see what is being collected on their behalf in real time. So it's not a case of FCT-IRS collecting anyone's revenue. No, we're just enabling you to collect your revenue. We're providing the resources, we're providing a platform. And you rightly said that, people are worried about multiple layers of taxation and revenue. Even for the area councils, there's a lot of leakages, because sometimes if you send 10 people out to go and collect revenue, you can't control all of them. So it is best that you say, look, we'll have one central collection point. We will then, of course, assist the taxpayers to be able to know what they should pay. If you have 10 taxes, assuming, we also hope to streamline the number of taxes, but let's even assume you have 10 taxes to pay. You will be able to see what you are owing on the portal or what is due. You generate your invoice and you pay at one point. Once the revenues are received, they can be spread out to each of the revenue heads. And then, of course, everybody then knows what is collected. It also helps us. It helps you so that, Michael or somebody else doesn't come and say, okay, give me 5 naira so that I can reduce your revenue or tax to 2 naira. So it's also about transparency and accountability. Naturally, people are suspicious of revenue officers. So we want to ensure that we have technology that makes sure that your money is safe.
So the physical contact is reduced to the
various... It will certainly be reduced to the various...
Before we let you go, there's a target that you set for this month.
Yes. Well, we've set a personal target for ourselves for the month. The minimum we want to collect this month is 30 billion. And I believe...
In January?
Yes, and we're on track to do that.
From where?
From Abuja.
From us.
From you and me and every Abuja resident.
Where? Yeah. How?
So the revenues exist. The revenues exist. If you look at the performance...
30 billion?
Absolutely. If you look at the performance for December, we collected almost 26 billion in December, which tells you that, if we push and we do a little more, we can easily reach that 30 billion target. And like I told you, we are pushing ourselves even higher than what the government is asking us to bring in. You will agree with me that everywhere in Abuja is now a massive construction site. So this is also easier for us because people can then see and appreciate. So when we go to knock on their doors, they know that, look, these monies are going to be used for their benefit. So let me thank the Honorable Minister, because he's also helping us to collect taxes by making sure that Abuja residents see what these revenues are being used for.
I want to thank you very much for being with us on the program, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you so much for letting me come here.